being here. I'm privileged to introduce our speaker today, who is Christian Davenport, Professor of Peace Studies, Political Science, and Sociology here at the University of Notre Dame. Between 1999 and 2008, Christian was on the faculty of the University of Maryland, where he directed the Minorities at Risk Data Project, co-directed it. He continues to direct two projects, the Radical Information Project and Stop Our States, among others which I'll mention. He earned his PhD in political science from Binghamton University in 1992. Professor Davenport's vast range of interests and activities are not easy to summarize, but at their heart looms this question: how might we better quantify, analyze, understand, and respond to the causes of violent and deadly conflict in the world, not least political conflict, from genocide to domestic spying, that is instigated or exacerbated by repressive nation-states and governments, as well as the structural and cultural violence of racism, religious and ethnic discrimination. I'll read just, believe me, a select number of the titles of Professor Davenport's articles and books, some of which are in press, some in process, others already published, just to give you a little slice of the sense of the range and the focus at the same time of his work. Currently underway, the Killer Movement, Repression, Dissent, and Demobilization, Toward Never Again, an empirical analysis of ending genocide. Articles, Repression with Adjectives, unifying the study of bugs, bans, bombs, battering rams, and state repression. Transitional Injustice, Rwanda, Overcoming Violence and Building Authoritarianism. Traveling in Black and White, a travelogue of racism, reflection, and redemption. Conflict and HIV/AIDS, a global perspective. Many of these articles and books, some of them at least, are co-authored, including with people working at the Kroc Institute and the Department of Political Science here at Notre Dame. Book titles: Media Bias, Perspective, and State Repression. State Repression and Domestic Democratic Peace. Paths to State Repression, Human Rights Violations, and Contentious Politics. And I could go on, but these articles have appeared in the American Political Science Review, the American Journal of Political Science, the Journal of Politics, the Journal of Conflict Resolution, Political Research Quarterly, Comparative Political Studies, and the Monthly Review. Professor Davenport has held visiting appointments at the Transitional Justice Institute, University of Ulster, the Center for Advanced Study and Behavioral Studies at Stanford University, and the Peace Research Institute in Oslo, Norway. He is currently working on a variety of overlapping projects involving state-dissident interactions in the United States, Rwanda, India, and Northern Ireland. Just the other day, Professor Michael Desch, the chair of the Political Science Department, circulated note of a recent Davenport and Molly Inman article in the Yale Journal of International Affairs, The Puzzle of Iraqi Mortality, Surges, Civilian Deaths, and Alternative Meanings. There's a good buzz and discussion about this article, but that's typical of Christian's work. It stimulates great discussion, some controversy, always useful, always pushing the conversation forward. His current project is on genodynamics, and the talk you're about to hear comes from that project. It's entitled Rethinking Rwanda, 1994. Please join me in welcoming the scholar that Professor Desch correctly describes as the hardest working man in academia, Professor Christian Davenport.
Thanks, Scott. I've gone through phases about talking about this project. Initially, I was extremely excited about it and talked about it a great deal. And then the response kind of came back on the project, and not everybody was happy about it. And as an academic, you're not really used to people paying attention to you at all. So that someone paid attention to the project and also found that there were some problems or some controversies with it. And then people threatening me and my family and some friends, I decided I wasn't going to talk about things for a while. And then after a couple of years, I then got a little bit feisty, upset, and I was like, okay, well, if that's how you're going to do it, then I'm going to do it right and come back. And so this is a 12-year discussion of sorts. So for those that are not aware, this is where Rwanda is. It's nestled between Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda, Tanzania, Burundi. Kigali is capital, hence the star. Butare is the college town. Lake Kivu is like absolutely huge. Phenomenally beautiful place, marvelous people, and what we are familiar with, and unfortunately, is a tremendous amount of violence that took place in 1994. So in 1994, I was at the University of Houston, and an assistant professor 2 years out. So Rwanda didn't have all of my attention. And I'm not the only one, because this also happened in 1994. Kurt Cobain died, Nelson Mandela got elected president, and the O.J. Simpson trial. Now, if you're like me, then you're like, how could you talk about that and that in the same sentence? We're Americans. This is in the bad sense. Only Americans could talk about this and this in the same sentence. Because this is what happened. These events come up. So I did this content analysis of the media coverage of Rwanda. These three knocked Rwanda coverage off of almost everything and effectively distracted us, in a sense, from what was taking place. Now, upon getting to the University of Maryland, as happens many times in the DC community, a question came up that was rather fascinating. So someone got money from USAID, United States Aid and Development Agency. They received this huge grant, and written into the grant was this issue of we want to do something in Rwanda regarding conflict and peace. No one on the project did conflict and peace, and so if you don't use the money, they take it back. So basically someone knocked on my door and asked me if I wanted to go to Rwanda. And so I was like, what do I have to do? And they're like, all you have to do is speak with some memoir students about their projects and assist them with their methodology and maybe give a talk or two on human rights research. How long could I go? They were like, as long as you would like to stay. And I'm like, okay, so let me get this straight. I just need to give a couple of talks. I go to Rwanda and do whatever I want. And they're like, yeah. So this, for me, I thought was a phenomenal deal, and I decided to go. Before I go, I grab everything I could read that came out on Rwanda. This would be 1998, 1999. So I grab all these books that are on the topic, and I start reading human rights reports and start putting together an understanding of kind of what was going on. And in part, I mean, as an African American, I was the first person in my family to go to Africa. So I'm like, I'm going back to the motherland kind of joy. Now, granted, East Africa is not where most African Americans came from, but I'm like, I don't care. It is the continent. I'm going. I'm joyous. Whatever. While there, maybe I'll get to West Africa. I didn't care. I was like, I was going to the motherland. So I was pleased with that. And so I went there with kind of an understanding of what was taking place and a desire to actually figure out what had happened. So I went there not necessarily to do penance for kind of being distracted by OJ while several 100,000 people were dying, but basically that was kind of part of my approach. I was going for the family. I was going to make up for the horror that I thought I committed as an American, but as a scholar interested in political violence. I went to go figure out what had happened, to basically do justice to the events, and also to basically try to understand what was going on and improve our understanding collectively. So today what I want to do is kind of outline this 12-year quest, which is being written up into a book, but to kind of work through it, and I'll work through some more than others, but basically this is also the outline of the book, which is also probably going to be called Rethinking Rwanda 1994. But today I'm going to talk a little bit about conventional wisdom, kind of like what is it that we knew about Rwanda prior to my going and kind of immediately afterwards. Some of the implications of this conventional wisdom, then talk a little bit about the data that was collected during the process of the project, then explore the 7 dimensions of the Rwandan conflict and the political violence there, and then conclude. So, conventional wisdom on Rwanda is broken down into 7 different areas. So, there's some understanding of the nature of the killing. It was fairly diffuse and quite variable across the space of Rwanda. A type of killing, genocide, is the thing that we're prompted to pay attention to first. And if you're good and you're thorough, you'll also see some discussion, a little discussion of civil war. So, genocide undertaken by the FAR, the existing extremist government at the time, and the civil war involved the FAR taking on the Rwandan Patriotic Front that was invading in from Uganda. Perpetrators of the violence, principally the genocide, were believed to be Hutu. The number of individuals involved, not really clear. Part of what I'm going to argue is a lot of this stuff concerns ranges of values, and which range of values you select in part determines how you think everything else took place. So the number involved, 100,000 maybe to 1 million. So there's roughly 1 million plus individuals that are involved in this Gacaca effort, and they have in some way, shape, or form involved or been involved with or perpetrating crimes there. The victims, the identity, is believed to be mostly Tutsi and some Hutu. The number, again, values range. So this is the estimate from Human Rights Watch and a few other demographers. 500,000 is on the low, 1.8 million is on the high. That is even trumped by some other sources as well. The importance of movement, that is movement within the country of different individuals. People highlight that less typically at the time. The intervention possibility, the possibility that intervention could have taken place, this is extremely high, and in fact is viewed as a lost opportunity. That one of the tragedies of this issue is that we could have stopped it but didn't. And the reconciliation complexity, the complexity involved with trying to get some sense of truth and reconciliation here, it's believed in many respects that this is possible. The complexity isn't that bad. It's actually, given the simplicity of 1 through 6, the straightforwardness with which is conveyed, we actually believe that we have a shot at the international community and definitely Rwandans think that that's possible. Well, there's numerous lessons from Rwanda. There's a lot of discussion about this. Actually, if you Google lessons of Rwanda, you get several hundred hits. It's amazing how many lessons from Rwanda were drawn, in part because of this conventional understanding. So, first implication, detection of these things, large-scale, principally state-sponsored violent activities, pretty easy to do. Rwanda is often spoken of as the most straightforward case since the Holocaust. Intervention. The lesson from Rwanda is act fast. Third implication, the RPF were fabulous. They did what no one else could do. They stopped the violence. Fourth, post-genocidal assistance. There was some, but basically it wasn't as coordinated as it could have been. There's also some bizarre kind of puzzles that emerge from it. So we didn't stop the violence through intervention or any activities like that, but when people got to refugee camps, many of them involving people that were perpetrators and did killing, we were great at getting them food. So this was a huge embarrassment once it became known, but this is one of these implications that emerges from our understanding. So the points from today, the points from the 12-year Odyssey research effort that I'll discuss, understanding Rwanda in 1994 and its implications are conditional upon the acceptance of certain contestable facts. 2, relying on a large amount of evidence, I argue that conventional wisdom is essentially wrong on all points. 3, the new understanding and new implications dramatically shift what we understand about Rwanda in 1994, how we conduct research on conflict, and conflict processes, or how we should, and how we should go about the business of peace building as well. This is where we're going. So the